Sorry, I've attempted to find a resolution which captured what John was saying, because it seemed to capture what I was intending, which was to begin a site selection process for an Eastern Recreation and Sports Centre in the northeast of Christchurch. The final process to be signed off by the Burwood Pegasus Community Board, the Chairperson of the Community Committee and the Mayor, and that enabled, absolute hands-on with the single Community Board that was covered, and the Chair of the Community Committee and the Mayor. Identify options for a legacy project in New Brighton to be reported back by the end of May, and that would enable us to look at what was on offering and what the costings might be and where we might find funding for that. And then identify opportunities and options for an aquatic facility in the Linwood-Woolston area, possibly in conjunction with the Ministry of Education. But I've been unable to get agreement over the previous amendment that was seconded by the 2 ward councillors. So I'm going to, and I know this is going to be disappointing to people, but I'm going to perhaps move an alternative, which is that this matter goes to the Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole next week for a final decision. So for a decision on the recommendation, so that I mean I can't, it's not going to be resolved here now. I was trying to look for a neat solution, and I thought we'd manage to get one from John, but yes.
So when I look at that, that looks quite sensible to me. But you have to split these processes up, and from my observation is that these things have all just got melded together, when in fact it's quite simple. The money's been allocated for a QE2 replacement. Yeah. Let's get on with it. They want to do some stuff in New Brighton. Let's look at that. Yep. They want to pull here. Let's look at that. But trying to put them all together creates huge problems. So why are we doing that?
It's because of the way the whole process was structured from the outset. So I think that inadvertently the previous council made it look as if half of the money from QE2 had been left in the east, but actually it wasn't like that. The money from QE2 had been allocated to the Metro Sports facility in town. That wasn't the one that the government's decided on. It was the earlier one in the draft Central City Plan. And so the decision about the Metro facility being in town was already decided.
But there was, I mean, there's a June 2012 resolution where they allocated the 30.6.
That's right.
For a QE2 replacement.
And that's what it looked like, yeah. But it's not a Metro replacement, but there is no business case for it. There's no concept plan around it. There isn't any work on it. So the next thing was to determine the process for determining the site by bringing the 2 community boards together. All of a sudden,
what's it got to do with the other community boards?
Exactly, which is why the 7 proposals that are in front of us are not acceptable, because they've gone into Linwood Park, Cuthbert's Green. Even Aranui High School doesn't quite meet the criteria that would be put in front of this community. I mean, it's right on the boundary of Burwood Pegasus and Hagley Ferrymead, and miles away from the other end of the electorate where there is the growth. The growth is happening in the northeast. Yep.
Why not just put it back at QE2? I mean...
Can I ask a question about that? Or can I be re-elected? Sorry. The community cost of QE2? Do you have an idea of what that is, roughly? Just of remediating the land so that you could build a pool facility there?
We've completed a higher level geotech evaluation of QE2 Park. So we put boreholes basically all over the park. It's shown that the western area of the park, previously occupied by the Sport and Rec Centre, the stadium and the golf course, are unbuildable.
Unbuildable.
eastern part, the Ascot Fields, the existing car park, the village green, is what we know as TC3, which is very, very similar in properties to the rest of the east. So before any facility was absolutely committed to, we'd identify a site, do some more geotech testing. We would expect to find a TC3 type site that we have to pile, but we think we could build it there.
But the cost of the geotech before you get to building the pool?
40,000.
40, no, the actual...
Remediation.
Remediation work.
Depends what we find.
What's your gut feel, like, from what the
My
information...
gut feeling is the wet areas are going to cost about $6,500 a square metre to build, including the foundations. That would be that would be an increase of about $1,000 a square metre, primarily because of the increased strength in foundations.
And how many square metres are we talking about, John?
How many do you want, Vicky?
Yeah. No, but this is the problem, asking these questions.
Oh, no,
is that
it's like a big picture.
the trouble is that we don't, I mean,
I can't tell you.
The previous council set aside a sum of money. They didn't set aside any specifications. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and there are sort of multiplying levels of expectation. I had hoped that these three simple proposals would have been able to move on.
Look, I'm prepared to second that, and I'd just like to speak briefly though about a context, and that we actually have that aquatic facilities review in some form also available to us, because I see there's like a plan available, John, and maybe you can help me. But I'm just wondering if we had that, it seems it would resolve some of the issues that, especially in terms of where other pools go in other parts of the city.
Phil, if you had that plan in front of you, you'd have to make a decision whether or not you agreed with it. But what that plan would tell you is the first priority to build something is North East Christchurch. The second priority is the metro. The third priority is the Hornby area, and possibly the fourth priority, if council wished, in time, was an evaluation of the Linwood-Woolston area, if you agreed with it.
So,
can I go back to that question? If you're telling me that it's an additional 1,000 square metre to build, and let's just assume the facility is 10,000 square metres, are we talking about 10 million just to rebuild on that site before you actually get to do the pool?
It would be very, very dangerous to make those assumptions here. The costs of building the foundations for an aquatic facility per square metre will be consistent all the way through the east of Christchurch, whether you build around QE2 Park or around Woolston Park. If you're building on TC3, the conditions and the costs are going to be very, very similar. So it's a level playing field, and the playing field's not too flash.
yeah. I'm really worried about the amount of time that we have. So it is 4:25. The motion that we've got here that I would rather just deal with is that this matter be referred to the Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole next week for a decision. So we're giving the power to make a decision on these two amendments and the original resolution to the Committee of the Whole. Yanni.
Ask, as part of, if that's what we agree, is it possible to get a high-level analysis of the geotech, and how does it compare to the one in the Metro Sports facility in the central city?
I can give you a high-level analysis of QE2 Park. I can do that promptly.
In terms of the Metro Sports in town?
The point is that we are not going to be making a decision on the location. You know, we've got an incredibly frustrated group of people out there who want their council to commit to having a complex in the northeast of Christchurch to replace the one that they lost. Yep. It's not going to be an exact replacement because the council has decided to put the metro part of the facility into the CBD. And that decision is long-standing, it's well understood, and that is where that decision lies. But this community is expecting us to get on with the job of actually allowing the process to determine the place where it will be located. Obviously the process is then established for it, and then the council staff work with those, with the process that's been established, whether it's a working group or whatever, and they receive all of the information, all of the reports. They understand what all of the options mean, what it means by way of limitation, what it means by way of opportunity, and then a decision is brought back here. And I just think that process needs to get underway, but asking for all of this detail about geotechnical reports for the centre of town and for options that may or may not be proceeded with, I just think that we have to get on with the process of establishing it. If at the end of the day the cost-benefit doesn't stack up or the geotech doesn't stack up, we need to be open and honest with the community about it. But there's no point having a high-level perspective if we don't have a process for determining what the facts are and making a decision.
I've got to go to the media for.
You do.
Can we have decision in caps lock?
So I'm going to put the motion that the matter be referred to the Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole on the 3rd of April 2014 for a decision. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Yanni O'Henson against. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Now, there are certain items on the agenda that are urgent, and I think we're going to have